And we're back.
We're
Another
back.
episode of the Cody Trout Pod. Today's guest, local legend, soon to be international legend, Brandon Killough.
I don't know how I'm going to break through that international market, but it's happening.
It's happening. You've got the multicultural look down. You could pass for a number of, ethnicities. You got it down. But just so you guys get the flavor of what kind of crowd this guy's able to handle, Brandon hosts a lot of the comedy shows in town, and there was a specific story you told me that I wanted you to tell the audience again.
Gotcha. The Othello's.
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Othello's is always a fun mic.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start with that. If you guys haven't checked that out, you should definitely go.
Mm-hmm.
It's something Buchanan Avenue in Norman. Look it up. Just Google it. Everybody's got Google. But every Tuesday night, they do an open mic, and it's fantastic. And every now and then they ask me to host. If they ever ask you to host, you should definitely do it.
I'm hosting on the 19th.
Yes. I will do my best to be there.
All right.
100%. I want to be there. It's always a fun time. Some weird shit always happens because it's a college town, and it's, a very good Italian restaurant that I fully believe is haunted. Like the little back area. You've seen the little table back there. It looks like
it's
a place
creepy.
where a Scooby-Doo villain would be unmasked.
I don't go back there. I kind of stay in the front area.
Right. But I was hosting there one Tuesday evening, and it was a weird night. They had a ton of like college students. Like a class came. And they were encouraged to sign up for the class. It was like an acting on camera or something like that.
Okay, so trying to get a little extra credit.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is what drew this particular gentleman in, but he showed up and signed up because the list was so long, and I didn't cut it off or shorten anything, and I probably should have. But it ended up being like over a 2-hour long show.
Oh my gosh!
So just all kinds of walks of life, and this guy Lucky was like, "Hey man, sign me up," and he keeps like messing with me throughout the night. "Hey man, am I up next?" I'm like, "No, the list is right over here. You're up number 13 or whatever."
Yeah.
So
he's like, number 5's up now. I'm number 13. I'm up next.
Yeah, so this guy teaches me a lesson. Basically, he taught me that I need to stop introducing random people that I don't know with the same generic, like, give it up for my pal or my guy, my buddy. That's what I did with him. And I was like, give it up for my guy, Lucky.
Yeah.
And I realized as he's walking up, holy shit, this dude is homeless.
Oh.
Like, it's not immediately apparent when people in Norman are homeless. They have like an upper echelon of homeless people. It's not the same. Like, he was just a little dusty. He wasn't like full on dirty or anything. He wasn't pushing a cart. He didn't have a tent, anything like that.
Could easily mistaken for like a frat guy after a little bit of a bender.
I just thought he was just kind of like a dusty like worker guy that's just like, I'm gonna roll into Othello's after work and tell some jokes. But like by the way he walked up when I announced his name, it was immediately apparent that he was like, he just had that energy when he walked up, like, I don't give a fuck about life. I sleep on the streets. Yeah. And I immediately had the good sense to say, hey, I don't really fucking know this guy. He's just...
Did you say it into the mic?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I was just like, hey, I don't really know this guy. I was just kidding. But
my God.
And I just wanted to distance myself because I felt a vibe that he was going to do something weird. And he did. He immediately got weird. Like, he pulls a kazoo out of his pocket, out of his coat pocket, reaches into the little breast pocket and pulls out a kazoo to play Christmas songs for us.
At least he's original. I mean, that's nobody else was doing.
It was original,
bits.
and let me tell you, I've never been so relieved to see a kazoo in my life because I thought it was going to be a pistol. I was just like, I hit the deck. I was like, Lucky, no. And started like fiddling with, because they have the bendable like boom mic.
Yes.
So he started fiddling with the mic stand. Like, it was frustrating him that he couldn't.
Nobody can get that mic
quite straight.
Quite oriented.
It was like annoying him, and he like lifts it up at some point. He was like, ah! Like, I thought he was like gonna throw it off stage. I had to like run up on stage and like separate the mic from him. Like, we're just gonna put this over here, Lucky. Don't worry about it. Just forget that's over there.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, as soon as I freed him from the mic stand completely, it's a wireless mic. So he's like, I'm gonna get in the middle of the crowd and like start doing some crowd work. I'm like, Lucky, no, don't do it, please. Please don't do it, Lucky.
Oh, man.
You have a very rapey vibe. All these young college girls are gonna run out of here. Please don't do it. Yeah.
Did he go for it?
No, he was just fully like shouting jokes in people's faces at the table.
He gets like 2 feet from like a little girl, and he's like, "And you know what I did? I killed her."
Exactly.
Like, oh my God.
And I put her on Cody Troutman's wall of murder.
Yeah, that says wall of memories, but it's actually just a bit of a
said
misspelling.
murder.
It's a wall of murder is what it's kind of a play on words for.
So I read it as the intention.
Exactly. Yeah, you detected the vibe. What I rely on is people being too trusting.
That's why I wear these sunglasses. It's like, what's that Roddy Piper movie where he sees the aliens through the sunglasses? He can only see them.
I've never seen that.
Oh my God.
What is that?
It's so cool. I cannot remember what it's called. I want to say it's like Them or something like that, but I'm probably completely wrong.
Movie where you can see aliens through sun. I've been impressed. Like, I've Googled songs before where I'm like, what's the song where the part goes like la 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 la, and it's like, oh, you mean Hey Jude by the Beatles? Nah. I'm like, that's the one.
How the fudge? Yeah, no, I'm gonna look that up right now because that's gonna bug me. Rowdy Piper, They Live.
They Live.
Made in 1988, which is kind of ahead of its time. Like the book 1984. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of speaks to a lot of the things that are going on now. Mm-hmm. It's like that kind of like with the media brainwashing and the political bullshit. Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on my list to check it out.
Definitely should.
Right next to Hello Kitty Island Adventure 4. I've been waiting for that to drop.
I think I recommended that one to you as well.
You did. That's gonna be a banger.
I'm telling you, man. I cried.
I heard it's rated R.
I cry. It is at least the one that I watched. With a
little bit of a hentai direction. But
a little.
You know what?
There were tentacles everywhere.
Go ahead and roll the intro music. We're gonna get this thing started.
Oh.
I'm Cody Troutman, and this is my podcast, the Cody Trout Pod. And we're back here with Brandon Killough.
Yes.
And like I briefly kind of glossed over at the beginning, our connection is through our mutual pursuit of stand-up comedy.
Yes.
You're kind of an OG, you know, you're on the path to international stardom. I'm the newbie that's trying to learn the ropes.
Yeah.
And I think that, because I went back and looked, because I record all the like sets that I do.
Right.
Kindle's was the very first comic performance I ever did.
Really?
Yeah,
I
on
did
November
not know
16th. That was my first one ever.
That is awesome.
It was dead silent in there.
I think at the very least I was probably laughing in a corner somewhere.
Like, who is this guy? I remember I did a combination of like, stuff I don't even do anymore. I tried to tell jokes about how men lie on purpose because they're smart. Like, I thought I was so clever. And it's like if you haven't done stand-up, you know, you think something's funny. And then you get on stage and you're like, wow, this is really bad.
It's so surprising to so many people, like how things that are just conversationally funny don't always, and often don't translate to the stage.
It's really tough. Yeah. Because I was like anybody else. I'm like, you know, I make my friends laugh sometimes. I'll get up there and all I got to do is, you know, have the right attitude and a lot of energy and it didn't work at all.
And I think the difference between like just people that casually think that and try it and quit and people that like keep going with it is really just stick-to-itiveness.
100%.
Or I mean that spark. You gotta have to have that spark. I always tell people that are thinking about trying comedy that you absolutely should, unless they're just like not humble and they're just assholes about it. Like, I could do that. That shit's easy. And then I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna encourage you still, but I'm not gonna give you any advice.
You're gonna record their set.
I just want you to crash and burn. That's one of the funniest things in the world to me when people are like, oh, I could do that. That's easy. And they get up there and just watch them just completely get ripped to pieces, or
there
just
is something about
sit
a good
through.
bomb.
It's especially when it's a well-deserved bomb. It's just wonderful. But no.
That's true. Because not all bombs are created equal. You know, you'll have ones of like, somebody's clearly up there, they're trying their best, they're approaching it the right way, and it's just not going their way. And you're like, but then you'll have some people that get up there, you know, with a bad attitude. Or the one that always gets me is when they insult the show they're participating in.
Right.
Like, I don't give a fuck about this place. Like, you think I care about any of you?
I don't know why am I even wasting my time up here type shit. Like, because you ain't got nothing better to fucking do. You're out here trying to make it like everybody else,
exactly.
man.
Those are the funniest.
But I always tell people that want to try it out, as long as they don't give me a reason to discourage them. Like, you absolutely should. And your first bomb, not necessarily your first set, because not everybody bombs the first time.
True.
I did. But your first bomb will tell you whether or not you should pursue this, or whether or not you have what it takes to pursue this. Because you're going to react one of two ways. You're either going to be like, that was bad, and I'm fucking embarrassed, and I never want to do that shit again.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go, I feel like I know exactly how I can do better next time.
Okay.
I'm going to start working on this immediately, and I'm going to attack this from a different angle.
Yeah.
And if you have that second reaction, this might be something you're cut out for.
I would say that mine was kind of mixed. Like, I remember I don't think it was my first bomb. I think it was after, maybe the second or third time I really bombed, and I was like, that was bad.
Yeah.
I'm really embarrassed. I'm sitting in the JJ's parking lot about to have to drive over to Kendall's and do it again.
Oh, shit. Those are the worst when you're planning a double or even triple header. Yeah. And you bomb in the first place, and you're just like, fuck. I got to shake that off, but I don't know. This might be a long night.
Yeah. And you're like, it's like you had planned to go like crush, victory lap.
Yeah,
now it's like D-Day, Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Good God.
It's I definitely have had that feeling a couple of times sitting in the car like, damn.
Yeah.
I gotta really want this.
But I've also had the opposite where I go to the first place and like kill, then I go to the second place and do almost the same bit, and people are just like, fuck you. Like,
that's always tough.
Well, this is weird.
That's always so tough. Yeah. I did want to ask you though, so you posted after one of the shows you hosted, because if I was asked to describe you, it'd be tough because there are so many things you do and so many things you pursue and do well. I saw you describe yourself as a hood famous comedian one time. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But in practicality, you're a businessman, you're a performer, you're a manager. If you had to like quickly sum up your scope of professions, how would you do such a thing?
I am the CEO of Brandon Killough Productions. Yeah. That's I feel like the easiest way to describe it, that encompasses everything that I do.
Yeah. And what, like, so I know you do stand up. You also manage different stand up artists.
I manage one stand up artist so far. And I'm not necessarily looking to take others under my wing, but would definitely be willing to, like, for the right people.
Gotcha.
That's really all the people that I manage. It wasn't like me pursuing people to manage. It was like me finding talented people. And literally the first artist that I started managing, Obi the Beast, probably was asking me to manage him for about a month, and I was already kind of halfway doing the job, like part-time.
Yeah,
because I was booking him for stuff and finding stuff for him and putting together stuff and putting him on it. And then I came across Next, and it was kind of the same thing. I had just done the Afro Man show at Kendall's, and things were just really starting to catch fire. And same thing, just met a really talented person that didn't really fully have the direction, or didn't have, like, just that extra push or that extra somebody to just find shit for him to do, and to pay them for it. And basically their talent inspired me to do it. Their talent and the kind of lack of a path for them in this city and in this state.
I think that's an interesting point, because I think in any field, any place, whether it's creative, business, athletics, any field, there's people with a lot of potential and a lot of talent, and they lack the foresight and direction to know how to pursue it, and so it never gets realized. It's
very tough, especially in Oklahoma. Like, entertainment is not a huge thing, or it's not a thing that this place is greatly known for.
Yeah.
Even though there's a ton of untapped talent in this state. Like, when I started doing comedy and music and putting shows together myself and kind of scouting talent, I saw it, man. Like, there's just so much potential and untapped talent, and the music and comedy industry, basically the entire entertainment industry in this state, is growing. I mean, there's the new tax credits for filming things here. We've had Danny Trejo, Brendan Fraser, Keanu Reeves, a lot of people dropping in and like filming movies or filming scenes or at least having meetings here. I mean, the entertainment industry in this state and in this city are growing. I like to think that none of the movie stuff, or obviously, and not a lot of the music stuff, but I like to think, at least from the comedy standpoint, that I'm a part of that growth.
Oh, I would say 100%.
I hope to be, and that's kind of one of the reasons I do things the way I do, and why, you know, I put folks like you on showcases, because you're extremely talented, but there's so much that old school mentality, especially in the comedy industry, that like you have to pay your dues, you have to put in your bones. And it's almost like this just like political like thing, and I don't believe in that. You know, I believe if you're talented, or even if you've drummed up like a you know, modest following, and you can put butts in seats, then you deserve a shot. And a lot of the bookers for the big clubs don't live here in this state.
Yeah, that's true.
Because a lot of these big clubs are like national chains, or at least like have multiple locations in the state, and they have to kind of bounce back and forth. So they don't get to go to these weekly mics and see all the talent and see what all the new people are doing. So they just have to kind of go off what they know and who they know. So my shows give people a chance to get seen a lot earlier than they normally would.
Yeah.
And I wish that sort of thing would have been going on when I first started. So I can see somebody like you that's been on the scene for a few months and see that potential and start booking you on things immediately. And without that, not to like toot my own horn, for a lot of people, without that wouldn't happen.
No, 100%.
You'd be at least a year in before you started to break any kind of ground.
True.
And, you know, a lot of the big guys say you got to be in this thing for 5-10 years before you start to see any sort of headway. And I'm fortunate enough to where I've been in it like barely over 4 years. And I'm starting to see a lot of headway.
Yeah. So. I do, and I've said it before, but I want to make sure every time I take the opportunity to say it again. You have been incredibly generous with not only your time and your energy, but information you've given me. You like booking me on shows, giving me chances, and I appreciate that. I do not take it for granted. I know how much trust and faith that takes, and so I want to make sure every time I deliver. Like we've got this show coming up,
right? And
this episode should be out right before the show. The show will be on 4/20, and it's just a testament to what you've built, because we got a big venue. It's a great lineup. That's gonna be a really special show. And I think you kind of mentioned it, where what you've done is like because the market is not as big, you know, like LA or New York City, obviously.
Right.
There's only a couple avenues that you can try to, if you go through the existing system, like try to get opportunities.
Right.
So what you've done is you've taken it from a point of like, oh, I'm just a stand-up comedian. You're like, no, I actually do the whole thing. And you book venues, book lineups, sell tickets, and have your own events.
Yeah.
And they're starting to get big. Like every event you're throwing is, you know, selling, moving tickets, getting people there, and successful.
Right. And honestly, up until the Puff Puff Last Showcase Part 2, which is the show we're doing at the Living Room Lounge on 4/20, this is the first show that I've done that I'm not producing completely out of my pocket.
Yeah.
I still am like putting up money and fronting money to get everything started, but I'm not alone. Like I've got real sponsors and investors and like people that are backing me on this. I mean, the show got bought out from the original venue.
I remember you talking about that.
They asked me like, how much will it take for you to do this here instead?
That's amazing.
So this is legitimately the first time that I'm not producing completely out of my own pocket.
But that's kind of what it takes, is that self-belief and logistical knowledge of, hey, I'm going to put up this much money, and I know if I book these people and sell this many tickets and market it in this way, I can prove concept. Because if you went to the venue, the living room, and you said to them, you know, without the track record, hey, I want to do this show, they would have said, fuck off.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You say, I want to do this show, well, you didn't even really have to approach them. You've just put on more and more successful shows over time, and they're like, shit, we want some of that business.
Yeah,
How much will it take to get you to do that here?
Right. The first Puff Puff Laugh Showcase was at Kendall's.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, that was the first show where we like almost sold out.
I do remember how many people were there.
It wasn't quite as much as a Valentine's Day showcase or the V-Day Vibe showcase. That one, I oversold that. Like we went a little over capacity.
There was so many people
we
there.
should have stopped selling tickets like
And
10,
that was
15.
my first paid show.
Yeah, we should have stopped selling tickets like 10 or 15 people before we did. So it ended up, it wasn't supposed to be like a standing room situation at all, but it ended up very much being standing room only for some people by the end.
I couldn't believe how many people were packed into that little room, the crowd was into it. That was awesome.
It was such a great show. Like all those decorations, like all the little sparkly shit and the little heart-shaped gems and confetti and tablecloth and champagne glasses and all that shit. I pulled up there about an hour and a half before the show, and I set all that up by hand myself.
No way.
That was all me. That was all me. Yeah.
You know what's going to be cool is when someday you're like, performing in a theater and you've self-produced your own special and you're taking bids from Netflix and Amazon Prime and Comedy Central. You're going to have those memories of, I remember when I put confetti on tables in a little dive bar, and you're going to be able to look back on it and see the journey. And I think that's what's going to be so cool is that, like I saw an interview with Cat Williams. He owns all his own stuff. I didn't even know that.
Right.
And so he said that, he fields bids from Netflix and Comedy Central. Like, you're going to be doing that same thing where you're just producing your own things, owning all of it, and saying like, all right, where am I going to put this newest special? You're not going to be like, Netflix, please, can I make one?
Man, I sure hope so. I mean, that is definitely the approach I'm taking, and I hope that I see anywhere near that level of success with it. It's definitely building and seems to be going in that direction, and it's very, very exciting and very gratifying. I mean, I spent a good part of that 4 years just kind of spinning my wheels and trying different things, and even when I first started doing this, which this has moved a lot faster than like kind of mixing the comedy and music and self-producing shows. I've been doing this part of it for just over a year. Yeah. And mixing the music with it for less than 6 months, really.
It's incredible how far it's come.
Yeah.
I just think there's nothing else like it around here. And not only that, even if there was nothing else like it, you might do it a couple times, but if it's new and fancy, but the show sucked, it'd be like, that's kind of cool. But the fact that they're run right, you get good lineups, you're professional, you make sure all the performers, the venues, and the audiences are all taken care of, whether it's services or whatever needs to be done. Yeah. That not only do the people going there have a good experience, the artists and the venues have a good experience. And of course, those people talk. So then bigger venues know that you put on a good show. Right. Artists hear from other artists like, oh, that's something like if I get a chance to work with him, I want to be a part of that. And so it all builds into this thing of, it's like the stairway to, they have a song about it, Stairway to Heaven.
No stairway. Denied.
It's the stairway to success. And I think yours is moving like an escalator because every step you take, it's like moving with you.
It is starting to feel like it. And I have now that I'm starting to get a team behind me and I'm not just doing it by myself anymore, it's such a huge relief. Yeah. Like it's like I have Trisha, is my new director of marketing. I have Crystal is my personal assistant. I have Charlie Hightime, who is the person who is helping. He's one of the main people helping me produce the show at the Living Room. He's the person who actually reached out about switching the venue. Kendall has been huge and instrumental, and just that bar is really, it's not the first place I did stand up, but as far as self-producing shows and really like taking a big swing at this, that's where I got my start for sure. Gina at Poor Liquid Lounge and Chris, the owner of Poor Liquid Lounge. Mike and Cutter and Scissorhands from Castle Row Studios.
I got some friends with Castle Row ties.
Yeah, Xavier from the Living Room. There's just a lot of people have kind of stepped up behind me and believe in me and what I do and have been very supportive and helped me build this platform for myself and for all these other people.
I think their faith is well placed. It's not something like you came out and you're like selling them promises. It's like, no, you delivered beforehand, right? And you bring into them saying, hey, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Do you want to team up?
And they're like, hell yeah. To your point earlier, that's one of the greatest feelings about this and the way it's happening. Like, I'm not approaching any of these people. I'm not asking to do these things. all these people at this point have offered these things to me, and kind of just handed me the keys to the kingdom, and it feels fantastic. Hey, the Highness. That was the Highness pun, folks.
I think what's cool though is that each opportunity, like these relationships don't happen by accident, because from the 6 months that I've been observing, it's like each opportunity you get, you fulfill promises plus some. So it's like you don't even have to ask like, hey, trust me. They're asking you like, hey, trust me. I want to work together.
Absolutely.
But I think part of it, to kind of circle back, like it started with you host a lot of open mics.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a thought. This is not an original thought of mine. I heard this somewhere and I thought it was so true. Stand-up comedy is different from other jobs or careers because in most jobs and careers, there's some sort of training. You work your way up.
Right.
There's some sort of proving ground. Stand-up comedy, to do it, you start by getting on a mic and telling jokes to people.
It's very
very different.
It's very much like a baby bird type of
just toss you out of the nest.
Fly or die, basically. Yeah, 100%.
And I think the open mics, like I would encourage, kind of like you were saying, I would encourage anyone that's curious to try it out because it's a great learning experience and self-awareness thing, even if it's something you don't end up pursuing. But what it does also provide is great comedy in unintentional ways sometimes.
yeah.
There's a lot of people see the glamorous side of stand up, on a Netflix special or a big showcase. And that's great. That's what we're all trying to get to. But there is a certain amount of charm to, a small venue with nobody there at an open mic night and you don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shit gets gritty and shit gets weird.
There was one, because you're a fixture in the scene at a lot of these, but there was one night. So there was, for context, there's the Othello's place you mentioned. They have the Othello's Comedy Classic.
Yeah,
and all March were the qualifiers.
Right.
Now, first qualifier, you showed up, crushed it, moved to the finals. You didn't have to do any of the others.
Right.
I had to go to the rest of the qualifiers, and at one of the qualifiers I was at, it was like I've heard stories of things at open mics going crazy before, but this was my first one that really went sideways.
Right.
And at the end of it, after all 20 comics have gone up, this guy stands up, and nobody quite knew what was going on. He just walked to the stage. The host is talking, and he grabs the mic and he's like, "I'm gonna do a few minutes."
Oh no, you're not.
And the host was like, what? Like he kind of thought he was being punked.
Yeah.
And the guy, and he's like, "No, this is my microphone." He's like, "Okay." So he goes to the piano and he starts playing.
Was he good?
He was terrible,
oh,
unfortunately.
Damn.
And he wasn't a comic. He was just like somebody that was at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And had probably had a little too much to drink. And the host is trying to kind of announce the winners and move things along. And this guy starts playing and singing louder and louder. And the host is kind of just trying to tune it out, but it's not working at all because he's just like going crazier and crazier.
Oh man, I would have cut the mic and the lights.
Oh
honestly.
yeah, and so the host ends up kind of just looking around like, and I didn't realize till after it happened how funny it was because it was so bizarre. Like they had the owner and a couple of the bartenders had to go up there and like escort the guy out.
Right.
And he went from like cheerful, I want to do a few minutes to fuck yeah, fuck this place,
yeah.
I'm
As
never
folks
coming
like
back.
that are want to do, as if we would want you to, sir.
Exactly. That was the funniest part. He's like, I'm never coming back. They're like, oh, bummer. Like that's the worst.
How amazing would it have been if that would have busted out the best, like
that would have been amazing.
Just full on Ray Charles that shit.
Yes. Or if he had snatched the mic and just busted out like an hour of Chappelle
just
quality.
The most amazing stand-up.
This guy's crushing.
I would have.
Awesome.
Feel like I would have been more satisfied if you just sat down at the piano. On the mess around. Ooh.
That would have been amazing. You're right. That kind of would have been cooler because it's like, because everybody's there doing comedy. He's just playing the piano.
Right.
They're like, listen, this was a comedy competition. We're gonna have to give it to this guy.
I want to see what he does at the classic. I want to see what his 5 minutes are.
But what about you? You've hosted a lot of mics. You've seen a lot of shit. What's a story? You told a good one at the beginning. Are there any others that stick out in your memory?
There's so many. So 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I would say some weird shit happens at least once every 2 weeks, at least.
Damn, yeah.
But yeah,
crazy.
there was one. The crowd work is usually a fun one.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Because it has like different levels of hilarity, and it's hilarious for different reasons to me. There's some where it's just like, oh, I killed that. That was a super great interaction.
Yeah.
And there's some where just like, it's almost like they killed that. Like,
yeah, I've seen that more often.
Yeah,
At open mics, it like the crowd member is more likely to get the good reaction.
Right.
Like, if
and
they crack a
sometimes
joke.
it's just fucking weird. Like there was this lady, I don't even remember how we got on the subject. This is an older lady, much older lady in the audience. And low-key was kind of like being a little weird, like hitting on me a little bit. Somehow we got on the subject of zombie apocalypse. She brought up out of nowhere, I think it was like a weird flex that she has this huge house on like this huge property, all this land. And she's got all these guns stashed around her house.
So
like
she's
that,
ready. She's
like
trying
that
to flex
Kevin
that she's
Hart
ready.
joke. She's trying to flex that she's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, ma'am, I don't know if you're trying to intimidate me or if you're trying to like invite me out to your house in lieu of a zombie apocalypse. And she was like, you can come. You can come in my house and stay for the zombie apocalypse. And I'm just like, okay, well, you just said you got all these guns and you ready to shoot motherfuckers if they roll up on your property. Like, how will you know that it's me? How do I know I can safely get up to your property and not get my ass shot?
And once you're there, how do you know it's not a get out type situation?
Right. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Like body snatchers.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But no, like, how do I get up there and know that you're not just going to shoot my black ass on sight? And she's like, we got to have a signal. And I was like, all right. What's the signal? It's like a cuckoo type. She's like, just do this. And I forgot how. She basically did the shocker.
Oh.
I was like, that's the shocker?
Yeah.
Ma'am. And she didn't know what the shocker was. I think she was trying to do like rock hands.
And she's like, 1,
She was like,
3.
yeah, did the shocker. And I ended up turning that into like a 2-3 minute bit because it was just like making fun of her. I was like, y'all, she just threw her. She don't know what the fuck that is. So everybody, y'all heard that. If y'all want to be safe at her house during the zombie apocalypse, just roll up and give her the old shocker. Everybody's laughing. She didn't get it at all, but everybody else was laughing. That was a good one. That was a fun interaction.
Oh my gosh. I think my favorite thing I see at the open mic nights is if a comedian is performing and it doesn't go well, they start like berating the crowd,
blaming the
insulting
house,
the venue,
yeah.
saying that they like fuck this, I don't want to be here. It's very bizarre, and it always is funny, but not really for the right reason.
Yeah, it's funny to me because they're trying to belittle the mic or the venue, and they end up basically belittling themselves. Like that makes you look so small and petty.
It's like if like my thought always is, if these people are like so worthless and this mic is so bad, why are you here signed up? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Just own up to the fact that you're here doing what everybody else is doing. You're trying to make it, trying to practice for trying to make it.
Exactly.
Like, just, it is what it is. It's going to be bad sometimes.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, at the Killough comedy show every Thursday night at 9:30, it's really good. And it's a lot of fun.
Man, you built that up. The every Thursday shows, you've really built those up. Because I remember even 6 months ago, there'd be like 5-10 people there. Now, I mean, there's like 30 people there every time.
Yeah, the Monday night battleground is starting to build too. I think we had like 20 to 30 at the height of it last night. Yeah, and but yeah, the Thursdays, is at least 30, 40 people every time.
No, there's
a lot of times closer to like somewhere between the 50 and 70 range here lately.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Like every time out now.
That's amazing.
And that one started with, was lucky to get 4 people in there, comics included, man.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of how far that's come and all the work that I put into building that up to what it is now.
You should be, because I remember a time when you could just kind of roll up to those open mics and you just throw your name on and you get to go up right away.
Right.
Now, if you're not showing up a lot early and getting your name on the list, you're 15 deep by the time the show starts.
Honestly, most comedians and any comedians that watch the Cody Trout Pod, this is how you do it. I start getting messages and phone calls usually by 5 p.m. At the latest. Like, I think last week, I won't say any names, but somebody hit me up at like noon 30.
They were like, hey.
Put me on like number 4. So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So just hit me up. my information's out there. I'm on social media. I'm easy to find if you don't already have my number or my info. Very easy to find. Brandon Llewellyn Killough on Facebook. Brandon Killough Productions also on Facebook. Brandon_Killough_comedy on Insta.
I like your TikTok name the best. 2.2 the key.
2.2 the key BK comedy.
You gotta tell them why that exists, because it's really funny how that came about.
Well, that's my rap name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my podcast name is The Highness, and that is a secondary rap name too, because I had to have a cool rap name. You can't be a rapper.
We got Brandon on
and
the
just
beat.
call yourself Brandon. It just doesn't have that rapper ring to it. It's not. I love my name, but it's not that cool as far as like rapper names go.
But the way you came up with it is really funny to me, because it came from like a mispronunciation of your last name.
100%, yeah, and it was given to me by OB the Beast and Critical C and Coatmain. They're the ones that came up with the nickname. Everybody, my last name is Killough. It's Irish. I'm actually Black Irish.
The man of every culture.
Yeah.
You could perform, like, you could go on an international tour, and you could, like, every show could open with, like, "It is good to be back among my people."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could get away with that. 100%. But yeah, the way it's spelled is just asking to be mispronounced. People have mispronounced it in every way, shape, or form. Kellogg. Kilowog.
I think the first time I saw it, I thought it was Kelof.
I was Killoff.
Yeah.
I've gotten Killoff and Kilof. I've gotten Killaho. Like now you're just going crazy. You're just adding all kinds of extra letters
That's like
and syllables.
French. They look
at
the first three letters and then just say, "Fuck the rest. We're guessing."
One of the main posters for the Afro Man show I was billed on there is Brandon Kilowog. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's
but
really
the
funny.
most common one is Kilo.
Yeah.
Which I used to always have a bit because every time somebody announced me at a stand-up show, Brandon Killough, and I'd be like, "Oh, he mispronounced my name, but that's okay. I love when people mispronounce it like that because it sounds so much cooler than the reality. It makes you sound like a dope-ass drug dealer or something." So Killough 2.2 is a key for those who have not sold the drugos.
Yeah.
2.2, the key. And I open doors for people. So so it's a double entendre. But
it took me longer than I like to admit to like figure out. I was like 2.2. Where's it? And I was like, 2.2 pounds. It's
yeah.
Shit. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
My street cred, which I have a lot of.
You have a ton.
Yeah,
you have a ton
in the streets. We were talking about it earlier. Open mics are kind of breeding ground for it, but it happens at every level. Comedians bombing. Like it's just a natural part of it. And I gave my first performance at Kindle's. You were there, but and I would say I bombed, but not epically. My most epic bomb was like the next week, and I've had some pretty epic ones since. But I remember this was like the first super hard one.
Yeah. And
this one I think of every time. It's at a little place called JJ's Alley.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've been
JJ's.
there.
Oh yeah.
And I would say that crowd is good because if they are into it, you're really good. Yeah. But they don't want you there. They want to see live music.
You really got to pull them in at JJ's.
And the way it's set up is like there's a tiny little stage and then like a 50-foot hallway.
So it's very long and narrow. Yeah.
It's a tough place to perform. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I mean, I go to this place every Thursday. I like it, but to set up, why this bomb was so fantastic. I had this bit I was working on about an overage woman. The joke was that I got in trouble for dating a girl of an inappropriate age. She wasn't underage, she was overage. That was kind of the premise of the whole thing.
I enjoy that joke.
Yeah. So it's like 5 minutes about this too. It's not like one little,
You definitely needed to trim some of the fat off of that.
It's a lot. And this was my first time trying to just make a monstrosity out of nothing. I had just way too much. And,
right.
But, you only get 5 minutes. So it was all or nothing. Like, this was my bit. And right before I was going to go up, a woman walked in and she had a sash on.
Oh,
and I looked at the sash and it said 70th birthday. And I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, I'm about to do a bit about old ladies, and then she hollers down the stairs, "Come on, it's open!" And like 8 more of her friends, her same age, come up there, And it was one of like the dead nights, so they were the only audience members besides like 3 or 4 comics.
The Biddy squad really literally rolled up into JJ's as you did your old Biddy joke.
And it was, so I still, there was one comic before me to go, and so I'm thinking to myself, do I go with this material or do I just like try? Because I didn't have anything else. I was very new. I didn't have anything else. And a guy you know well, John McMillan, was there.
Oh, yeah.
And John McMillan, who's going to be on the podcast eventually, he loves it when shit goes sideways.
He thrives on chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
When chaos ensues, like he is home.
Yeah.
And he had heard me do this bit like earlier in the week. And he knew I was new.
Right.
And so he's looking at me and I'm like, I'm thinking, and he knows. And I was like, I don't think this is the crowd for me. He's like, are you doing the old lady shit?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't call it that. But, and he's like, you're doing it. And I mean, he gets so excited.
Yes.
He moves up to the very front where he's like next to the old ladies. He's like, yeah, our next guy. Like, he was so excited. And I was like, oh no. And I thought it was like an exercise in like determination. And I was like, I have to go up there because, you know, if I play a theater someday, I'm not gonna be able to change my stuff on the fly. I'm gonna go up there and do it.
Yeah.
And I went up there and I did it, and I wish it was silent.
Right.
They were like, oh God,
oh no.
Just looking at each other, shaking their heads.
Right.
And I remember just like hoping that the structural foundation of JJ's, which is already shaky.
Yeah.
I was hoping the termites would get through it at any moment and it would collapse on me and end it right there. Just me. I hope she enjoys her 70th and on birthdays, but I wanted to, I was like, so this is what it feels like to actually die. Like this is, and that was probably the worst. That and the one time at Othello's, I have another bit about I'm half Mexican. And, you know, obviously, you can tell by looking at me and talking to me, you know, I definitely am more white presenting is the term I would use.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Mexican side of my family, that we have a good lab. They tease me about it. It's like, you know, all love. But I do think it's funny to compare and contrast like the differences between my lifestyle, their lifestyle. It's very fun.
Especially when you like live right down that line and you see both sides your whole life. And absolutely.
So it's jokes that like kind of a collection of, you know, stuff that we've all talked about through the years, you know, and it's fun and it's kind of, you know, a lot of people joke about race. So it's not exactly the most creative thing to joke about, but it's, you know, it's personal. So it's fun. Well,
I feel like it's extremely creative if you can actually have a fresh take on something like that, though. That shows some real depth to your creativity when you can do that. Kind
of a knife's edge. But this the guy that went right before me one time, he did 5 minutes of jokes about being half Mexican.
Oh, God. You like, motherfucker. No you son of a bitch.
And so I had another one of those moments of like, do I try something else? And I was like, nope. You know what? I came to do this. I got to do this. And it was tough.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, damn, like they are really hearing all about the plight of the half Mexicans tonight.
Stuff like that is crucial, though. Like bombing is crucial.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, like it's absolutely necessary for your growth and development as a comedian.
That was one thing I was going to ask you is do you feel that it's like something you eventually get past?
100%. I feel like everybody, it happens to everybody. Mm-hmm. If you don't think it's happened to you, it's either going to happen very soon or you're fucking delusional and it's already happened.
Or
and
just consistently happening.
It's just happening every time.
That's how it
you
goes.
Just think you're killing it. Yeah. Which some people do. But no, I think it's absolutely necessary. And I definitely, I've got some bombs and some stories.
Yeah. Do you have it? Because I've never seen you like have a bad performance, I would say. I'm sure there's performances that.
It's happened, my friend.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's performances that you think back on like, oh, I wish I could have done that better, but your skill is to a level where you know you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It doesn't feel like that all the time, but I appreciate that. But no, it does definitely happen less nowadays. I feel like I bomb less, but I've had my fair share of bombs. Before I get into that story, though, I do want to talk about John McMillan for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Love that guy.
Hilarious, too.
Love you, John McMillan. I also fucking hate you. Both in equal measures. John McMillan. He
sold me an inward pass on the cheap.
So it's one of the reasons why I can't stand him. Oh, man. I love John, but I also love to fuck with John. I call him my nemesis lovingly, especially. He's my rap nemesis for sure. So I can't wait for him to come do your podcast. Mm-hmm. And I hope that his fucking face sinks when he turns around and sees my photo on the wall. That's right, John. I got here first, motherfucker. You son of a bitch, I'm coming for you. All right. But no, yeah, I've bombed. I really love and respect when somebody just takes a bomb on the face. Like you went into that situation with the old biddies.
I knew it was going bad.
Fully knowing how risky it was to do that bit. And that takes balls, and I respect that. And I love that. Almost, it's kind of like with the John McMillan thing. I love when that goes wrong.
Yeah.
It's almost also a respect thing. Like, man, I knew that was going to go horribly, but I respect you for trying anyway.
Yeah.
And I love when it pays off and it actually goes right. Well, it's beautiful when that happens for people.
Yeah,
like,
that is a cool moment when somebody goes for some, and especially when like the first minute or so, you can tell the crowd is like, "Oh, is it okay? Do we laugh?" And then they just start getting
that
into
nervous laughter is one of my favorites. Like white guilt laughter is like jet fuel to me. It just, I feel so great. I love it. But yeah, I did that in Stillwater and was lucky enough to have that pay off. Matt Rainey put me on a show out there. Matt Rainey and Wes Corwin at the Iron Monk Brewery.
Okay.
Great establishment, but I walked in there with the attitude like, I got family in Stillwater. They're coming out to see the show. Like, why the fuck haven't I been on this show yet?
Yeah.
And I walked in and it was immediately apparent. Like, why? I was just like, it was risky of them to put me on this. This
it was
is
all
not
like white guys, Confederate
all
flag
like
hats.
older white people and like OSU alums, like just older white people, and even like some younger. It's an agricultural college.
Yeah.
That just should give you an idea of the type of crowd it was.
Some rural folk.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I have some family on both sides, the black and white side of my family, that are very rural folk.
Just a different demographic.
Yeah, just a completely different demographic. And there was like, it's a brewery, and a lot of breweries are like all ages. Like they have like shows and stuff where like they'll let people bring their families in there, even their dogs at some places.
Oh.
And this was very much like just, some families were there. There was even a couple kids running around when I first walked in, and I was just like, oh man, do I like change my whole bit, or do I just lean into it and go for it? And thankfully, the kids either left or just went somewhere where I couldn't see them by the time I got on stage.
Or grew up real fast.
So I just fucking went for it. Like I just swung. I even leaned into like the dicey like racial tension thing of it. I did my whole bit about white dudes loving to give high fives.
That's a good one.
Tricked some poor innocent white dudes into high fiving me and then embarrassing them for why they were high fiving me, and even heavily implied that Mike Gundy was racist. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I looked around and I got a little nervous. I was like, oof, there's kids here. I curse a lot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oof, there's a lot of white people here. I say nigga a lot. But then I thought about it and I was like, it's probably fine. Most of y'all probably do too. Mike Gundy, am I right?
That's
and
funny.
They actually ate it up, man. Like most of my set was like that, and it was a fun time.
Good for them for being like, willing to roll with it, because I think some people usually, if they're not willing to laugh at themselves, maybe they're too proud or too insecure. But I find an audience that's like willing to laugh at themselves is like generally better. Like they're good people.
Right.
Kind of a good litmus test.
But it was definitely a huge risk to open my set with that.
Oh, you opened with
I
that?
opened.
Oh man,
with
that
the racial shit. So
risky.
that could have been a long bomb. I think I had a 15-minute set that night.
Could have been a
so I could have
15.
just been up there with just a lot of racial tension and no laughs.
What about like I've seen it a few times, not many, but I've seen somebody who gets up there and if 90 seconds in they're bombing, they'll just hit the
just
eject
take
button.
off. Yeah.
Like that is something that I just think that, if you if you're going to do your time, you got to do it, because how do you build that thick skin or tolerance for being able to, hang in there if you're just going to bail. Like that's a bad idea, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I was about to say there's been times where I probably should have done that.
Well, now you got some great stories.
Just stubbornly stuck in there. There have been times where I've very much felt like certain audience members, if not the entire audience, wanted to kick my ass. Like I've had those shows. In fact, even some of the shows where I've done extremely well, there's been certain audience members that I felt like wanted to kick. That Stillwater show, there was a guy right up front that had his back to the stage area.
Whoa.
And just didn't seem to be into the show at all. Didn't seem to like any of us or want any of us there. And I, for some reason, just decided I'm gonna fuck with this guy. And after I told my first couple of jokes, I just kind of snuck up, walked up right behind him and just made it real awkward. I was just like, hey.
Oh no!
What's up? What are you doing?
He might have pulled out a gun.
Literally, asked him to turn. I was like, could you turn around and face me, sir? I feel awkward. I feel disrespectful and weird that we've been doing a whole comedy show behind your back.
Yeah. Because talking behind someone's back is very mean. So you gotta turn around.
He was not amused at all.
Oh no!
I still have that bit up on my Facebook page.
Oh, really?
And I love watching it just to see how much he hated every fucking minute of that.
That is funny.
the entire set, he was just not having it.
I've seen I was at a comedy show and this guy, his name's Rob Little. He's been at it forever and ever. And it was one of the ones at Looney Bin, so after the open mic, you get to stay for the show. And he started interacting with this woman in the audience pretty early, and she was really against it.
Right.
And instead of just kind of moving on, he interacted with her every 2 minutes for his whole hour. And there were times when it he almost because it was a lot. Even I was a little uncomfortable, but he's been a national touring comedian for 25 plus years. He just had the skill to know where that line was every time.
Right, and just dance all around.
Yeah, I remember I was just nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, he's fucking going for it. It was just crazy.
That's awesome.
But as far as is there any other funny stories that you want to share? Because I do want to get into a little bit more of the serious side of the journey. But I want to know if there's any other stories that you came wanting to share, anything you wanted to talk about before I start with the more intense questions.
We've talked about bombing. We've talked about open mic. Hecklers.
Oh, yeah.
I have one heckler story that stands out in particular.
I would love to hear it.
There was a drunken lady. There was a couple actually at the Bricktown Comedy Club open mic.
Oh boy!
Were
they both heckling or just one?
Just the lady. Just the lady of the couple.
I've always wondered what it's like to be the other person in that dynamic.
Oh God, probably embarrassing as shit.
Tough.
But she was obviously very drunk, and at first it was just them settling up their tab. Very loudly. And the show wasn't over yet. They're settling up a little early, but just very loudly talking to the waitress and settling up their tab. I don't know if she was objecting to something because I was trying to do my jokes.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was with my extremely toxic ex. And I was having someone record my set. I was going to, either post it or trash it later. We do the game tape thing, but I was also going to show my ex because I just wanted to say, hey, baby, look what I did.
Yeah.
And this lady was up here doing that, and I was telling my dick pic joke. And at the time, part of that joke was one of my stupid online friends, and I arguing about dick pic etiquette and whether or not to put the balls in the picture.
That's a pretty good question.
He was like, yeah, you got to get the right angle and get the balls in there. I was like, the balls? Why? No one wants to see your ball. I don't even want to see my own balls, sir. No, don't do that.
A penis isn't exactly a pretty thing to look at. Balls even less so.
Plus, I don't even know if I could get both in the frame. I don't know if you need extra help, sir, but I'm already trying to find a panoramic setting and figure this shit out. But for some reason, the whole first minute and a half of my set, this lady was talking over and ignoring. And the first part that she chose to hone in on was that.
Okay.
And I said that part, and she goes, "Yeah, put the balls in." And I'm just like, "Ma'am, could you stop? You've been talking throughout the entirety of my set so far. I'm recording this to show to my girlfriend later, and the first fucking audible thing on this tape is going to be, 'Yeah, put the balls in.' This entire thing is useless. Thank you very much, ma'am." So
that's really funny.
that's how you deal with hecklers. And that actually kind of turned it around because they were very disruptive for the first part of the show. And then as soon as I got her locked in and made that joke, not only were they more locked in, but the crowd went fucking nuts. They thought that was hilarious. That tape was absolutely useless.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's how toxic that chick was. Because I could, like, obviously that was some random heckler. She'd be like, "Oh, did you put the balls in?" Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. But yeah.
I do think like hecklers are interesting because you never know, like it's kind of an opportunity for the set to go either a lot better or a lot worse.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
If a heckler's kind of going after you and you try to engage and they shit on you, like, it's really tough to recover.
It's all in how you approach it and whether or not you are equipped to handle it. True. And if you're not equipped to handle it, do your best to be
just ignore it.
Be Jesus-like about it and just turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Just try to keep doing anything. But yeah, worst thing you can do is actually get mad.
I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. Like if you are actually the one who is visibly shaken in the exchange, it's almost never going to be funny.
Yeah.
Like you just end up looking like an ass, and it looks like they've won, and the crowd just doesn't get behind you, and you just look bad.
Because it's almost like it doesn't matter as much like who wins. You know, you're on stage with a microphone, so you have the advantage.
Right.
As, like if you're just like having fun with it, like, right, shut the fuck up, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
like,
keep your cool.
Yeah.
You're in the position of power. Yeah, keep your cool.
Because even if you did get mad and said some like, amazing shit, it'd be like, oh, that was uncalled for.
Yeah, you just kind of seem like an asshole.
I do think the best I've ever seen at handling hecklers, well, but the best is the wrong word, but the most original that makes me laugh the most is generic Eric.
Oh, yeah.
So every time he gets heckled, he like it. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or whether he's just like unfazed.
Yeah.
But like I remember somebody was heckling him one time, and they started talking shit about his shoes. Like, they said, and he said, "Shoes, man, that's funny because with shoes." And he just started talking about shoes for like a minute, and like totally ignored him and forgot what they said. Then they were talking about like his hairline, and he was like, "Hairline, about a hairline. I was talking to my barber the other day." You know what I mean? It's just like, so it just like, and I remember the person that was doing it. I think it might have even been during like the heckle mic.
I think it was the heckle mic
because for context, he has a mic that is set up where heckling is encouraged. You can get practice at dealing with it.
Right.
And it was everybody that heckled generic Eric that night, it was just going nowhere. So by the last half of his set, everybody was just quiet. It's like, what are we like, what are we supposed to
stop
say?
even trying to heckle him and just let him do his bit.
He's just going, and I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like next time I get seriously heckled, I'm gonna kind of use some of that wisdom of just kind of like pretending it went over my head, just like, well, that's interesting,
It's almost like some Superman type shit. Instead of just like taking the bullet straight to the chest, you're just kind of moving with it. So it just like glances off of you.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I was amazed by that. But at this point, I want to hear, before I start getting into the more philosophical, I want to hear a little more in depth about like what you're doing as far as Brandon Killough Productions, what you're working on, what the people should know about.
Yeah.
The 420 show, obviously.
But we'll save that for last because I want that to be the freshest in everybody's minds. Because that's something that if we pull this off, which it looks like we're going to, it very much looks like we're going to. I have a lot of faith in this. If we pull this off the way it should be pulled off, this is going to be a huge boost for the scene.
Wow.
For that venue, for my production company, and for really everybody involved in the show. A lot of clout. If we can put 380 people in that room, we could fill that place to capacity, that's a show to rival the big grade A clubs.
100%.
It's not an arena show by any means, but that's still pretty freaking
huge.
Gosh,
yeah.
Especially for like a local show in Oklahoma,
At the V-Day Vibe show at Kendall's, you had to stop selling tickets after like 70 people, and there was no pre-sale for that.
Right.
It was just show up and pay.
That was
and
all
now,
at the door, yeah.
For this one, there's a pre-sale, and almost all the VIPs already gone.
We have one VIP, and it's the lesser VIP. So the $50 VIP sold out within the first day and a half, maybe 2 days at the most.
When Brandon looks off for confirmation, he's got his head of marketing. I want to make sure I get your title right.
Yeah, she's the director of marketing.
Director of marketing. That sounds even cooler. His director of marketing here. The man has got his team.
The wonderful, wonderful Trisha.
I have my
She's
parents
amazing.
Downstairs, so
he's got a team too.
There's levels to this. Is what I'm saying. There's levels to this.
But yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, the open mics, because that's good for the scene. That's good for all the comics on the scene.
You're an excellent host. Like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
It's like as time goes on, you kind of realize how valuable the host is.
Yeah.
I think when the host is, I think it's hard to be a really bad host.
Right.
But it's easy to be a very mediocre host and add nothing.
100%. Yeah. And it's not something that I feel comes natural to anybody. At the very least, it didn't come natural to me. I put a lot of work into getting to where I am with it now. I put a lot of work into it every time I do it, because to do it like the way I do it and add that little extra flair and flavor, I have to literally pay attention to almost the entire show.
Yeah.
Even when I have 20 plus people and it's over 2 hours of sometimes amazing and sometimes very bad and mediocre comedy.
Yeah.
I have to pay attention to all that so that I can add something meaningful and somewhat personal to the segue in between, so it feels like it's tailored to each person, and not only makes that comedian feel good, sometimes even gives that comedian like a little note that they add to their joke later, but also keeps the audience engaged and interested, and keeps the audience
That's a big key.
Paying attention to those specific people and certain jokes of theirs.
I think because not only do you make sure that you get there early, make sure the sound's right. You get the list together early, and get everybody comfortable with their order. Yeah. You're great on crowd control. Like if the crowd's getting too, where the line is, because you want the crowd rowdy and engaged. Right. But you don't want them distract. Like you're great at kind of knowing where that line is. And not only that, like the segues between comedians, I think adds a lot to the show, because between comedians, the lull is a good chance for the audience to tune out. But when they're looking forward to you getting up there and, cracking some improv ad-lib joke about the set, I find myself, even after I've gone, sticking around and watching, and when somebody's performing, I'm like, oh, I wonder what Brandon's going to key in on and make a joke about. Right. And oftentimes it's something very clever. Like it's not just low-hanging fruit. You'll involve the audience, and, a lot of the format is like, did he really say this, or did she really say, like? I don't feel that way. That's always a good. So it is very, very impressive to watch how you host that. And I in preparation for the one I'm hosting in a couple weeks, I've been taking a lot of mental notes. Right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think you're not the only one that's told me that, but you're the first person to ever come up to me and tell me after a show that you were looking forward to my segues.
Oh yeah,
almost as much as certain people's sets.
100%.
Like I was just, and that's an amazing feeling. That made me feel great. So I definitely really, really appreciate that. And it, just like any aspect of comedy or these open mics, that's kind of the point, is to get out there and do it as much as you can. You got to put in those reps, and that's how you develop those skills.
Yeah. I think that's what's great about the heckle mic as well, is that, dealing with hecklers is just something you got to have practice at and get reps in at. And it's just not something like, by the time you get your first rep and it goes bad, that could be detrimental. Right. You need practice.
I think it's really cool too, because I think it's something fun for the audience. Usually they're discouraged from speaking at all during the show, so like to give them that little moment during that particular show to just go for it. Yeah, I think that's a good release for them, and just keeps things varied and interesting for the audience. So the Monday night Battlegrounds mic at Kindle's is what we're talking about, folks. It's Monday at Kindle's on Reno and May. That's 110 South May Avenue. 9 p.m. sign up, 9:30 show. That one I split into categories, and I let comedians and musicians sign up openly. So there'll be like music, comedy, music, comedy, music, comedy. And it starts off, as far as the comedy part goes, we do a regular mic where people just get up and do their time. And at first I didn't time people during that. I just let them go. And then people decided I'm just going to get up here and do like 20 minutes for 5 people. So I was like, we're not doing that shit anymore.
Taping that Comedy Central special.
Now there is a 10-minute cap now, but there's not a lot of mics where you can go up and do 10 minutes.
No, most of them are like 4.
Right. So, and then, music, and then we'll do the roast battle if anybody wants to sign up for that. It gives you a chance to kind of cut your teeth at getting good at roasts, and hopefully gives, you a chance to be seen roasting by some of these bookers and some people that put on shows around here that wouldn't normally see you. Mm-hmm. And then after some more music, we do the heckle mic. If people sign up for that, where again, you get to, practice going up against hecklers and the audience gets to cut loose and have a little more fun. And then we go into a rap battle if anybody has the balls to sign up. Most people don't want to do it anymore because they don't want this smoke.
I was going to say, you're almost undefeated, if I remember correctly.
I've been beaten by one person in a rap battle really my entire life, and that is Hustle, who is an amazing rapper. Definitely check him out, guys, if you haven't. And then we do a rap cipher, which for those white folks watching the podcast, that is when a bunch of rappers will just freestyle over various beats together collaboratively, not in a combative battle format. So we do the battle and then we squash it all and have kind of the peace session after that. And that has taken off so much that I'll have people show up at other mics, or sometimes at the showcases, like, hey, we doing a cipher at the end?
No way.
Like, yeah, and if the crowd's into it, fuck it, why not?
That's wild.
I think the LOL showcase, the Ladies of Laughter.
Wow.
That happened, and we just went for it.
That's
and
cool.
It was a blast.
That might happen at the after party of the 420 show.
I would not be surprised at all. So that's the Monday night open mic at Kindle's, and then I'm a house comic at Bricktown Comedy Club, so pretty much they have me on every week on Wednesday in some capacity. I'm at least usually on the list. So
so a house comic, that just means that they've kind of selected you to be a regular? How does that?
It's basically somebody who has been up there so often that they consider you a regular. Like, not every show, but some of the lesser showcases I can get in without having to buy my ticket.
Nice.
And I think I get like a slight discount on some things.
Oh, very nice.
But the main thing is, really, for me, the biggest perk is having that certainty of a mic to go to every Wednesday.
Yeah, that's not, because that's a good crowd too.
Yeah.
People are there to see a show, and you can really see if your stuff's good or not.
Right. Absolutely.
And maybe I'm biased because I always do well there, and so I think I'm a little biased. But
right. I mean,
this place is great.
It is one of the best clubs in the state. It's one of the premier clubs in the state. It is a grade A comedy club. So that's anytime, whether it's the Looney Bin, Tulsa Comedy Club, Bricktown Comedy Club, if you have a chance and you're a budding comedian to do a mic or any time on one of those real stages, do it. Mm-hmm. Do it as often as you can,
because that's the real proving ground.
I've had nightmares about like losing bookings, or like people are trying to talk to me about like a really important or really like beneficial booking.
Yeah,
and I'll either forget the date in the nightmare, or they'll go to tell me the date or what the show is, and they'll turn into like fucking Charlie Brown's teacher. Like, yeah, it was a really big opportunity. You could be opening for Dave Chappelle, man. It's gonna be, it's gonna be on March. Like, I'm gonna wake up in cold sweats.
Oh, that's brutal. Yeah. What other things are you involved in? What other projects are you involved in that you want to show some love to?
Definitely. Also got to plug the Killough Kindle comedy show. That's my Thursday night mic at Kindle's. Same time, 9:30 sign up, or 9 p.m. sign up, 9:30 show time. The Friday night mic laugh night at the Liquid Lounge. That's at Poor OKC Liquid Lounge, 814 West Sheridan, Suite F. At least once a month, which this is going to pick up a little bit more and become more frequent. But we have the Grindhouse Comedy Show at Castle Row Studios.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic thing.
That venue looks... So I've never been inside that actual venue. It looked really good.
It's so legit. It's so cool.
Looked like a mini theater.
And it's such a raw experience. Like, it's just very exclusive, and they have the VIP section. It's just super cool. But the actual, like, show itself as a comic, it's a very raw experience. It's like that Def Jam, Showtime at the Apollo. Like, if they don't like you, the audience lets you fucking know.
I've heard that from a couple
and the
people.
DJ
like,
lets you
show.
know. I've seen so many people get musicked off that stage. But like, the first time we did it was wearing a button up and a tie, and I had a hoodie on over it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll just go out like this, and then after the first couple comics, I'll take my hoodie off, and then just go up like this for the rest of the show. And after the reaction the first couple comics got, after how savage that crowd was, just like tearing them apart, I was like, I'm not fucking taking this thing off. I will sweat my ass off through this whole show before I give these people any excuse to clown on my ass, old suit and tie ass nigga. Like, nope, no sir, I will sweat. But no, that's a great show, and that's building in something. Each one gets a little tighter and a little better. So definitely check that out. That'll be on my social media when they nail down a date for the next one. And the cool thing about that is they always invite some comics back that have already made it through, but it is a competition show.
Oh, it's a competition show. I didn't realize that.
They invite a few comics back each time that have already made it through, just to make sure that there's going to be some solid comedy peppered throughout the show. Gotcha. But then everybody else is vying for a spot. By the end, I think we're going to end up with like 16 to 20 comics in the actual competition. And then at Scissorhands Barbershop, forgive me sir, I cannot remember the name for the life of me right now, but the barbershop's right down there by Castle Row Studios. They're gonna actually have like the prelims in the knockout rounds at the barbershop.
And it's
gonna be a really cool vibe.
Like a months or weeks long competition.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's all gonna culminate. I think they've moved the date by now because we've had a couple of holdups and they've got so much going on there.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, the finale is going to be back at Castle Row Studios.
Gotcha.
And we'll invite, the people that got knocked out back to do a few minutes just to fill in the show and make it a hour and a half event, which is right the sweet spot you want a comedy show to be at.
Yeah, that is a nice.
And they have some incredible musical performers that are kind enough to come in there and really get the energy put back in the show and keep the crowd engaged.
That's nice.
Like last time we had Cage, who's fucking amazing performer. He performed the last 2 times. But yeah, so definitely look out on a date for the next one of those. And I'm still booking dates for the new Hey You Made It showcase. That's a new format where I find touring comics that have headlined.
I saw there's one coming up, right?
Well, we just did the Mark Viola show. That was this last Sunday, and it was a great time. We had a decent turnout, but it was a fun show, and Mark is hilarious.
Cool.
And it was just it was a good time, man. And that thanks to a lot of the videos that Trisha took and posted, and other people on the show, taking pictures and videos and throwing that all over social media. People saw how much fun we were having, and I've had at least 4 or 5 different people reach out to either myself or Trisha through our business pages, looking for dates and spots.
Oh, so wow.
That's going to probably end up being at least a once a month showcase that I'll do, mostly at Kindle's, but I'm also open to doing it at other venues as well.
It's a good idea to kind of get somebody in there, mix the local with the touring.
Yeah, 100%. And, a lot of these guys end up in Oklahoma on dates where they haven't had time to talk to the bookers at the bigger clubs, or they just haven't had time to set something up, and they'll just reach out to locals and see if they've got something, and now I have something that I can kind of throw together.
Yeah.
As long as they give me enough of a heads up.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I don't want to, do a show with less than 3 or 4 weeks at least.
True, to promote it, get it together.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I also, with local comics, I'll put on showcases if they have like a cool idea for something original or something like that. Then I'll put it together. I'll produce it. I'll throw them on as headliner, and I'll host the thing, and we'll do it. That's how a lot of these shows started out.
Okay.
Just me spitballing with people and having ideas and being like, yeah, I'll get us a date for it and we'll try it.
Nice.
And then I'm probably forgetting something. I'm probably going to make somebody upset at me, but
if you remember, we can always
we can always go back to it. But the big one for me right now is, of course, the Puff Puff Laugh Showcase Part 2. That's just such a big thing. Not only for a lot of my sponsors and a lot of these cannabis vendors and things like that, 405 Relief, the Pre-Roll Factory, Oklahoma's Pop Party, OPP, Native Brothers. God, there's so many people involved. The Factory. So many people involved in this show. And the after party. That's going to be nuts.
Man, it is going to be cool.
And that's going to be on 420.
Mm-hmm.
The show starts at the living room, 7 p.m. doors. Show starts at 8 p.m. Every ticket, whether it's general admission or VIP, comes with some sort of door prize. If you're an OMA card holder, and a voucher for a door prize at the after party from one of our vendors. I do have to make it clear, legally, none of the vendors are going to be able to sell anything at the after party.
Gotcha.
They can set up they can set up sales for you to come essentially pick it up from their dispensary, kind of like you can pre-order on Weed Maps now.
Gotcha.
And they'll have it waiting for you at the dispensary to just come in and purchase and pick up. It'll essentially be doing that.
Gotcha.
At the after party.
Okay.
But if you purchased a ticket to the show and you came to the show and got that voucher, that gives you an opportunity to come and at least sample the product instead of just having to be like, I want that. You know what I mean? You can actually go and voucher, and they'll let you try it out. That gets you, access to our vendor area. Essentially,
it's going to be exciting, man, because the lineup is fantastic.
Oh yeah. It's going to be an incredible show. John Wallen, Damon Detroit, Adrian Corwin, Gabby Merchant. Next is going to be performing some music. I will be hosting. And then the after party, we got Aura.com performing. We've got The Boy Who Cried Terps performing. We've got Obi the Beast. And honestly, probably more to come. I'll probably throw a couple more people on there by the time all's said and done. Try to get Hustle on there maybe. DJ Undefined is going to be DJing both the showcase at the Living Room Lounge and the after party at Pour.
Okay.
It's just going to be a good time, man, all the way around. But to have like the full experience, I highly recommend doing both.
I will be appearing at both for sure. I'll be performing. I'm coming to that after party. Mix it up.
It's going to be an event, man. It's going to be a hell of an event. I can't even really comfortably call this one a show or even a party. It's going to be an event.
I'm excited, and it is an honor to be a part of it. I can't wait to see like the turnout, because the turnout for the Valentine's show was crazy, and this is already getting bigger than that.
Right,
which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, speaking from a perspective of like more personal, like those are like what you're doing, but what about like, let's go internal.
Okay.
What made you first be drawn to not only the performing arts, but stand up in general? Like I know for me, because I think knowing why you do anything is really important.
Right.
So like for me, we talked a little bit earlier, and I'll spare some of the details, but I pursuing stand up is drastically different from things I've done in the past. And I think for me, I always had this desire to perform, entertain, make people laugh, and I was doing something so different that urge to do something like stand up got so strong, and it drew me to it because I also have this love of like crafting, like wordsmithing, crafting jokes, finding the humor and a clever way to present something, and then couple that with like I love stories. I love people connecting over a shared experience.
Right.
So it's kind of like the marriage of all those things, like being on stage, telling things that I've crafted to be perceived a certain way, being able to entertain people, and then tell stories that they can connect and have a shared experience over. It's like if done right, you can create quite a magical moment for yourself and the audience. I love that.
Right. I've always loved stand-up. I haven't always been drawn to stand-up specifically. But definitely always, as far as I can remember, been drawn to the idea of being an entertainer and entertainment in the first place. I kind of share your love of stories and storytelling. From a young age, just writing like short stories and stuff in class, like actual assignments and stuff. Always had, teachers kind of praise my writing and encourage me to kind of delve into that deeper and move forward with that. Grew up kind of a theater nerd, just big love for entertainment.
That's pretty remarkable to me because your persona is very much like, I have street cred, I've earned it,
and I do, and I have, but there's
you also there's
this
other side of you,
and that was
kind
like
of the total package.
Literally, like growing up in the hood and shit. Like that was the side that I used to have to hide.
Oh yeah,
kind of like I did. There's just even kind of the more intelligent side kind of would hide that, talk a little less proper and stuff, kind of afraid to be perceived as the smartest guy in the room foolishly, as a young person.
And we all go through different versions of that growing up.
But always had a love for all that stuff. And I think one of the first things to interest me in that, and it is funny because it's a stand-up thing, was just an old VHS tape that I found of Eddie Murphy Raw.
Oh man!
When I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, way too young to have any business watching it.
The leather suit.
Yeah, found it and played it, and it starts off with that segment with Samuel L. Jackson in it, and it's
the little
supposed
skit,
to be
right?
his family, and it's young Eddie like telling that story in front of his family at like a Christmas gathering or something.
And like I think one person laughs or something like that.
Yeah, it's Samuel L. Jackson laughs. Yeah, it's supposed to be his uncle. He's like, that boy got talent, and just. Ever since then, just kind of had at least that spark and interest in trying to be on stage and trying to perform or trying to do storytelling or entertainment in some way. And I kind of found out as I started growing up and getting into like middle school and high school and doing like drama class and theater and creative writing and all that. I have severe ADHD and extremely like almost crippling social anxiety, or just really anxiety, period.
I would never guess that in a million years.
Most people don't know at all and can't tell because I constantly just smoke a little bit of weed. I know it's years of practice of managing it and all that. But on stage that goes away.
Ooh.
Completely.
Interesting.
Just as soon as now Brandon Killough, or even if it's like a play or like a musical performance, curtain parts, lights come up. Just I'm not a different person unless I'm acting.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? Like doing stand up and music and stuff. I'm not a different person. I'm still me, but I'm just like the best version of me. It feels like all that just to the point where like it's one of the reasons I really feel like I caught the stand-up bug and continue to do stand-up. Like if I go a little bit without doing it, I start getting depressed, man. Like I start just like my anxiety starts getting the better of me without having that like brief respite from it. Like it's just that release.
So for you, getting on stage is almost cathartic in a way.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Like it's rare that I feel better in any other setting or play. It's just like to constantly battle that in some way. Like I have coping mechanisms and I manage it in certain ways, but to just like step into a realm where I don't even have to manage it anymore, it just goes away.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Why do you think that is? Is there something about being on stage that taps into something, or you just feel like the best version of yourself?
I don't know if I don't know which one of those it is. I feel like it probably is one of those things. It also, the bigger the crowd is, the more the easier it is for me.
Oh, wow.
So it's almost like a crowd of a certain size, it just kind of fades into like just a sea of faces, and it's just like less personal and just.
And you just get to perform.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. I can relate to that in a certain way. I'm not claiming any sort of like, oh, hey, I struggle too. I'm saying, but in the way you're mentioning of like it just kind of melts into this sea of faces.
Yeah.
I get that. Like there have been a few times, obviously it's not every performance. Hopefully someday it will be where, if I'm feeling comfortable with the material and I know that it's going to go well, because you have a bit you've been working on and it's gotten to a place where you have a feeling it's going to go well.
You have stuff that you get very comfortable. Like I know this kills in pretty much every crowd. Yeah, absolutely.
And then within that first 45 seconds, you're seeing like, okay, this is going about how I think it's going to go.
Definitely. Yeah.
And something just clicks where, the faces melt away, it gets, and then it just goes by like that. And you're just like this feeling of like euphoria and being at ease.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean,
it's just like, it's weird. Like I'll get up there and I'll feel those like nervous butterflies, like uncomfortable in a good way.
Yeah.
And then if it starts going really well, I'll just feel totally at ease. Like the V-Day Vibe show.
Right.
I remember like walking up to the stage, I was like, I'm gonna throw up on this stage.
Right,
and then,
right.
And then because there's like 60 people packed into this tiny room, and it's the first time my parents have ever seen me do stand up. It's my first paid show. I'm like, holy shit. And then after about 30, 45 seconds, people have laughed a little bit, and then I just blacked out.
Start to get that
and it's like
loose.
Yeah, I'll watch the video back, and I'll be like, I don't remember this shit at all.
Right.
Like I was going for it,
Hell yeah.
And it's a great feeling. So I do relate to that, where it just like the crowd fades away, and you're just up there. You feel the lights, and you feel like you can like fully express what you're feeling, what you're doing, and it's encouraged.
And it might be hard to believe, but that feeling grows exponentially with crowd sizes. Like if we sell out this, I can't wait. Like for you especially, I can't wait.
That'd be
if
awesome.
We sell this Puff Puff Last Showcase Part 2 out, like that.
I'll be hawking these tickets.
I'll tell you,
baby.
the first time I was on a Bricktown showcase that I got booked for one of those, and it sold out.
Oh man!
I was sitting backstage, and literally like Cody Freeman, a couple other people that were on the show with me. I think Maverick McWilliams maybe.
Dude,
had
that
been
dude
there.
is amazing.
Hilarious. Love
my
that
gosh,
guy. And
he's
it's
good.
just a super sweet guy. I love that guy. But just everybody was before the show in the green room, like checking on me, like, dude, are you okay? Like, you'll be able to do this, right? And it's just like, yeah, like, honestly, a lot of people don't see this part because we're not usually secluded to a little green room at my little rinky-dink shows, but I go through this before every show.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just because this is a big show. So yeah, no, this is normal for me.
And
I'll,
it was
I'll be
sold
fine.
out?
It was sold out.
That's like 350
it was like
people, right?
250, I think, somewhere around there.
250, okay.
But still, just a
I mean,
couple hundred people.
A lot of people.
And I don't think they were allowed. I think it was just like 2/3 capacity because this was during COVID and stuff like. But
Gotcha.
still,
I mean, 250
couple hundred
people is a
people.
lot.
Yeah. And oh my God, like when it was done, and I did well.
Nice. Not surprising.
When it was done, just that feeling.
It's good.
And I didn't realize. I thought, the first time I did that in front of like 50, 60 people. Thought that was like the height of it, and it would feel pretty much the same, even if you multiplied that by 10. No, it does not feel the same. It grows exponentially, and
that's amazing.
Hopefully, one day I'll see what it feels like to rock a whole arena because I couldn't even imagine how amazing that feels.
Yeah, that V-Day Vibe show, and then a couple of like. Even sometimes the Bricktown Comedy Club open mics, they'll get 50 people in there.
Yeah, and those are usually
feeling,
great nights. Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling is like nothing else. Like that Valentine's Day show, I remember afterwards, and I'm probably going to do this for every show now just because I kind of liked it, but I hadn't even planned on it. I was getting the flyer and had everybody sign it.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. I actually have it on the wall up there.
Nice. Oh, yeah, I see it. Hell yeah. That's awesome. You have your first...
my first payment for a show. I stapled to the sign.
That's super cool.
So I got that.
I am honored to have put you on that.
Oh, man. That's going to be my, like, the top sign, like... No matter how many I get, that's going to be like my favorite one. I
intended to start doing this with the Puff Puff Last Part 1 showcase, but I'm definitely 100% going to start doing it with this one because I'm very proud of even what we've done so far on it. But I'm going to get the big poster size ones printed off for everybody in the show. Get everybody to sign mine, and I'm going to start actually framing these and like putting them up in my room and stuff.
Oh, yeah, because like... say one day you do get to like play an arena and crush it.
Right.
Being able to look back and see the journey is so gratifying. That, like my professional golf career, that is, if this really is it, the biggest thing I regret is not being more sentimental.
Right.
Like we had 2 dogs when I was growing up, and I was of the mindset that live in the moment, put away your pictures and your videos, live in the moment.
Yeah.
Now the thing I regret most is that I don't have more pictures and videos of these 2 dogs who were like my entire childhood. You know?
Right.
And I'm like, why was I so stupid to think that it was lame to take a picture,
Right. Well, honestly, one of my big problems has been like not even thinking that it's lame and not wanting to commemorate things, but just like being so busy in that moment.
And just forgetting to take the step back and be like, I'm going to want to remember this.
Or even at times being just so blown away by the level of talent and what's happening on the stage that like there's been so many times where like Hustle's been up there doing like a one-of-a-kind, one-time only freestyle and actually like spitting about the things and the people in the room. And I'm just sitting there with my jaw just hitting the floor. And then like halfway through, I'm like, fuck, why am I not pulling out my phone and recording this?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, honestly, why Trisha has this director of marketing job now, because she's been going to like all my shows and she just naturally was doing that. Already basically doing the job before the job even existed.
The moment coming up.
And after like about 2 to 3 shows of like seeing that and seeing her social media presence of her like posting all these things for me without even being asked to do so, by the way. She's an amazing person. Just throwing all that together on her own, I was just like, I gotta fucking make this official and like actually ask her to do that. And she's already taken it to the next level and going above and beyond. So
that's incredible. I mean, the team you've built is really cool. I mean, it's awesome seeing Trish out at all the mics and getting to meet everybody involved. I love that. But as far as your comedic inspirations, who would you say maybe not is inspires you, maybe that you want to emulate? Like, I know for me, a big turning point, I'm still very early in my stand-up journey, but, even earlier was I read a book called Born Standing Up by Steve Martin.
Oh, yeah.
So have you ever heard of that book? It's not super new, but it was written, well after his career.
I have, yeah. And guys, he's so prolific.
Yeah. So the book, it's for anybody that might not have read it, it's not really like a guide or how to, like, hey, here's how to write comedy. It's just about his journey. Just
like anecdotes.
Yeah. And kind of autobiographical, but also kind of, like capturing these moments in time and just hearing how he spoke about it, hearing the grind of like, this is what he went through and this is what it became. And then so many years removed from it, looking back on it and like the poignant reflections that he had about that time period. I was just like, man, like, I want to do that.
If you've seen like a lot of his old like Saturday Night Live skits and stuff like that, the man is a wordsmith. He's very, very clever with his phrasing and his words, and
he uses everything.
Speaks very eloquently, and I imagine his writing style is. I need to read the book. I really do. I imagine it's probably
there are certain passages that I can still quote word for word, even though it's been months and months since I've read it. Like I remember, so the way that the pacing of the book. I'll only go on a short digression here, but this is really interesting. The pacing of the book is similar to the pacing of his career.
Right.
So, because I knew nothing really about, I knew who he was and thought his material was great, but didn't know like the progression of his career before reading the book.
Yeah.
So by 1976, he was like the biggest stand-up comedian in the world.
Right.
But in 1974, two short years before, he could not even fill the smallest club one time.
Yeah.
And from like 1963 to 74, he, was writing and performing and even trying to like self-fund tours, and nobody would he was just not good.
Right.
And then, and that takes up most of the book. Him kind of just laying the groundwork, discovering his style. And then when it all kind of happened, that part of the book goes very quickly. And in his own words, he describes it as like this 3-year blur.
Yeah.
And like just talks about how it was simultaneously the most euphoric and the most lonely part of his life, because he became such a big star that he didn't quite know how to navigate it. So he just was by himself.
Yeah.
And he talked about like there's this paragraph right at the end of the chapter that covers like the explosion.
Yeah.
And he talks about, and he phrases it in just a few sentences so eloquently of like, the way he describes it. He says like the way he phrases it is pretty much like, I couldn't believe it. Like it was like, he called it. He said, it was happening to me.
Yeah.
This lightning strike that I had seen before or heard about or dreamed about, it was happening to me. He said, my success had outstripped my wildest expectations. I had hit, he's like, I had hit a gusher and it kept on flowing.
Yeah.
And he said the reason why, because his touring schedule was insane. Like at his height, he was doing like 90 cities in 95 days, 80 cities in 85 days, just crazy shit. And he said the reason he was doing this is he's like, it could just be gone like that. Like he wanted to. And the most interesting part was the tour. Like he was on tour while the initial blow up happened.
Right.
And it was kind of a few things lined up where he had built this reputation as a solid road comic, even though nobody went to his shows.
Right.
And then at the same time, his appearances on the Tonight Show were getting more regular. Yeah. And instead of with guest hosts, they started putting him on with Johnny Carson, where there was more viewers. And his first special that he released, it got released on a network that nobody had ever heard of at the time, but would soon go on to dominate HBO. Yeah. Yep. And so he was the guy on there, and it all happened at once. And he said at the beginning of his tour, he could not sell 100 tickets, like legitimately couldn't.
I've heard about this. They started having to upgrade.
So day one so it was 60 cities in 70 days.
Does that remind you of anyone, folks?
Brandon,
having to upgrade a venue for a certain puff lap. Okay, sorry.
So, and I've been on this for a while, but this part is interesting. So he said he sold like 100 tickets at this first show. Yeah. He said by halfway through the tour, because what they would do is he'd perform the show, they'd get on the bus. He couldn't sleep on the bus, so they'd drive all night. They'd get to the hotel. He'd sleep all day at the hotel, wake up, go to the venue and perform. And he said at the venue, right before going on stage, he would ask the stage manager how many people are in the audience. Yeah. And his manager and stuff was rebooking venues that were bigger and bigger along the way. He said by halfway through the tour, it was like Omaha, Nebraska, 1,000. He's like, what? Yeah. Cleveland, Ohio, 1,800. And then it was like Boise, Idaho, 3,100. And he's like, what the? By the end of his tour, amazing. His last stop was in New York City. It was 2 back-to-back nights at I think like the Nassau Coliseum. 21,000, both sold out. Whew. Like, I can't. Usually, like you hear, like I can't even imagine being on the road and. Like, you know, nowadays with the internet, you can see something go viral and you see the view ticker go up. Yeah. But can you imagine being on the road and looking out and the audience every night just grows exponentially?
No, I mean,
I wouldn't even know how to calculate that.
I fucking lost my mind when I woke up one night. One of my Facebook reels went from like 200-300 views to like 2,000.
Yeah.
And then over the next week grew to like 7.5K, which is not a whole lot.
But it's more than nothing.
Like, for me, that's all. I don't have titties and. You know, I'm not a cute girl, so
dude, that's
big numbers for somebody like me.
That's pretty good.
I'm not a bona fide celebrity. I'm just kind of hood famous.
Yeah. Hey, Cat Williams is hood famous. He sells out arenas, so there's a career there.
Yeah, locally hood famous though. It was just I say that because it was like a really cool thing to like go to the hood corner store for the first time in my neighborhood off 10th Street, and like somebody be like, "You that dude that does comedy, ain't you? Man, you funny as fuck, man."
Oh, that's gotta feel.
And
good.
then the dude at the counter was like, "Oh, you're buying that Rick and Morty hoodie? Yeah, I'll give you like a discount. You know, knock $5 off." It was just like that's such a small thing, but that was such a cool fucking feeling for me. Yeah.
What about you? Because I'm talking about Steve Martin. My actual favorite comedian is Cat Williams. Which, it doesn't really match my persona, but he's my favorite. What about you?
I definitely have a short list of people that I would consider like inspirational, but I am absolutely in love with any comedian that makes me go, "Fuck, I wish I would have thought of that."
Yeah, that's true.
But my main guys, man, of course, I already brought him up because Raw was really the first thing that like gave me a taste. So definitely Eddie Murphy. Gotta say Richard Pryor because I feel like there would be no Eddie Murphy without Richard Pryor.
I mean,
there's times where he's literally mimicking his voice
and his mannerisms, the way he dresses.
Yeah, even like his laugh is very Pryor-esque. That little. It's not exactly the same, but Richard Pryor does have the like it's very similar. Hannibal Buress.
Okay.
Just his dry wit and some of the like more bombastic things he says, or when he just like grinds a bit to death, but every bit of it is funny.
I think I saw one where he did a bit on getting a jaywalking ticket in Canada.
Yeah,
that shit was hilarious.
Or his bit about not being able to check into like a shitty hotel because he didn't have his ID on him.
Okay, and the lady was like, I might have seen a clip of that on.
It's like I even tried to like pull up like my website and shit, and she was like, how do I know you didn't just make that up?
Oh my God.
It was like, are you suggesting that I faked an entire comedy career to check into your 2-star hotel? Are you saying that I created an entire website with fake merchandise just to sneak my way into your probably bed bug ridden hotel? You maniac, you? Is that what you're saying? I fucking love him.
To prove the concept, she orders merch and waits for it to arrive to make sure, like, all right, fine.
Okay, that's good. This is you.
Now, what you did is you contacted a t-shirt printer. You had to make up one, and you got my address and sent it to me.
Yep.
Clever,
yep.
but you're not getting in this Motel 6.
Damn it, you got me, lady. Yeah. John Mulaney.
Oh, man, what a great writer.
Hilarious. Oh, he's a fantastic writer. Yeah, absolutely. All the old greats, George Carlin.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby before we found out he was a fucking rapist. Which is funny because the Hannibal Buress connection there. Like,
I don't know about that.
Oh, man. So he's not the one that like revealed it to the world. Like Bill Cosby had already been kind of accused of these things and it had been brought up. And then it just kind of faded away as things do for people with money. It just kind of faded into the background and people got distracted and stopped talking about it. And it didn't seem like it was going anywhere.
Oh.
And Hannibal Buress basically started making it part of his act, like to call out Bill Cosby on that bullshit and like bring it back up.
Wow.
And that's kind of what brought the public and the media's attention back to it. And they ended up like more girls started coming forward and shit like that. And,
I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's brave. I'm surprised Bill Cosby didn't like send a hitter to.
I mean, I think that's part of the joke is like him like.
If I die, something. It wasn't suicide.
Well, I think it was like him, like Bill Cosby or Bill Cosby's people, like trying to approach him and say something to him, like, "How dare you did this?" He's just, I think it's fucking funny that like I'm running around and like women love me for this. I'm having all this great consensual sex all around the world thanks to Bill Cosby's bitch ass. He doesn't put it quite like that. I'm not doing it justice, but it's hilarious the way he puts it.
I can see him like his
so
dry
fucking
sense
clever.
of humor. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Very clever guy. Very clever guy. I love it.
What about goals? They can be more abstract or specific, like, but your goals with comedy or entertainment performance in general. Like, I don't think it's necessarily important or imperative to have maybe like a specific endpoint, but I do think without direction, the wheels just kind of spin. So what are you working towards? What's the short or long-term vision? For myself personally, the next level for me will be to try to tour, try to get national recognition, branch out to a few more states first and then just kind of spread outward. And then from there, as you've been alluding to and joking about throughout the show, international. Yeah. And to have, a worldwide syndicated special. Yeah, that's at least one. Something that's streamed somewhere. Yeah. That people are actually watching and paying attention to. And then for the production company, really to have any of my artists make it. Anybody that I'm managing to just hit big would be just one of the main goals, one of the main purposes of the production company existing in the first place. I built it to serve others. I literally was asked by the people I'm managing to manage them. I didn't approach them, just kind of like these venues and some of these people that are helping me out and sponsoring me now. I didn't go ask any of these people to do this. So I definitely want to make something happen for someone else, if not all of them. If the whole family eats, that's going to be a beautiful thing. And to just shine a spotlight on this local comedy scene, on this local music scene, on this city, on this state. Kind of just take Oklahoma to the next level. Have us be recognized for something other than Garth Brooks and leading the nation in obesity. And Reba McEntire and fucking Toby Keith and we can do something besides sing country. Yeah, we could do something besides sing country and play football and eventually, hopefully, the Thunder will actually win a championship. But there's more to Oklahoma than that. There's a lot more to Oklahoma than anybody that's not from here or hasn't spent a decent
amount of time here really knows.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Like when you like when I've done traveling for golf and stuff, people are like Oklahoma, ugh, like what's there? I'm like, you would be amazed at how much like there is a very diverse and alive cultural scene,
especially in the last few years. I mean, it was a dangerous move, and a lot of people scoffed at us, but us basically reopening first, like, you know, after the initial lockdown and quarantine, we were pretty much the first state to say, fuck it, man.
It was like at least Texas and Florida.
Yeah, at least start opening these bars and restaurants again. And that's really very much helped our entertainment industry, and like, a lot of people didn't have anywhere else that they could go perform. That's one of the reasons why Looney Bin and Bricktown have been so successful over the last few years, and that's one of the reasons why the scene has moved forward so much in the last few years. So
I mean,
COVID was not a terrible thing for us. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, it is interesting that, you know, some of these places had an opportunity to step up and took advantage of it. You know, because if they weren't ready for that, it could have easily just been a flash in the pan.
Oh, it could have blown up in our faces too. Like, so many of us could have died.
Yeah, true.
It was ballsy. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with Stitt being like blackmailed or something.
What about, so, you know, your goal is to expand nationally and internationally. I would say, if I had to verbalize what my specific goals would be, it would be, I want to create entertainment, mainly comedic entertainment, and just build a body of work that I can be proud of in multi-disciplines. You know, I would love, you know, the pipe dream is someday to have some form of success in, you know, the stand-up, the podcast, the YouTube videos, and kind of package that together and show that I know what I'm doing in terms of producing comedic entertainment, and then get the chance to maybe write my own show or movie. You know, that would be the coolest thing, I think.
I literally have both of those things in the work. Of course, they're going to be like independent.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the fact you're even working on it.
Yeah, one sitcom style web series and one short film.
And the thing is, like, you make those, they're good. You show those to people that have money to invest, and you say, look at what I was able to do with no budget.
Right.
You know, and then it just kind of scales up from there.
100%.
Like, have you ever heard of the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
So the way that started was Charlie Day and the other guy, I forget the other guy's name, they could not get work on anything as comedic actors, comedian, anything. And they had this idea for a show.
And Charlie Day is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's great. So they filmed this pilot on camcorders in their apartment.
Right.
They sent it off. Nobody thought it was good. They said, we know this is good. So they filmed like 4 episodes on these camcorders, passed it around. Eventually, two networks liked it, and it went from nothing to a bidding war.
Yeah,
and then it got picked up, and the rest is history.
Very similar trajectory to Workaholics.
Really?
There's a few like comedy troupes and a few people that have really hit it big to doing something similar to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I absolutely believe in your ability to do something like this. I mean, look what you've done with this podcast already. I mean, this is a very cool setup.
Get it off the ground, baby.
But yeah,
you would not be surprised. Well, maybe, but how nervous I was to spray paint these.
Oh, I bet.
Because I was like, if I fuck this up, I practiced my signature.
My mom would have killed
me. Yeah, she would have been. Luckily, her knees are not great, so if she comes up the stairs, it's for important stuff only.
Right.
So I knew, I was like, if I can just like nail this. So I was practicing, and you know, I remember. There's even a video of me, because like I said, I'm trying to get better at kind of capturing. So I filmed myself, you know, building all this, and I spray paint this on the wall, and I kind of forget that I'm recording, because it took me a good amount of time to get all the letters up there.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it, and I say in this like super high pitched voice, I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then like about 15 seconds ago, I'm like, "That's what it's supposed to look like." Hell yeah!
Right.
And I'm just like,
you
"Oh
look
my
back
god!"
at that like,
yeah,
God.
And I'm gonna keep it, because I'm sure someday it won't be totally cringe. It'll be like kind of endearing, but it's
yeah.
I remember that was pretty funny. I'm like, I'll keep that.
Yeah, Trisha did. It's on its way to 1,000 views. It's like a TikTok video of me wiggling and eating Skittles outside of a FedEx while I was getting the Puff Puff Laugh flyers printed. I have a habit of when I'm happy, I just kind of do this little wiggle.
Like when I'm happy or excited. I remember you had a little stand-up bit about that. Yeah.
And she did it like wiggling. Nature documentary style. Like I came out of FedEx, he goes, not aware that I was being filmed. And she's like, there he is in his natural element, wiggling and eating Skittles. He has no idea what I'm saying right now. So yeah, it's a very funny video. Check it out. But
that's kind of adorable in a way.
Yeah,
actually.
But yeah, those little things, where you feel like a complete goober or jackass in the moment when you realize that it was captured on film. But later, it's endearing. It only took a day or two for it to become endearing to me.
Yeah, in a way, it's almost like that's the stuff that people latch onto the most.
Yeah.
Because it's more relatable in a way like, something that you wouldn't post trying to be cool. I took an improv class right before I tried stand-up comedy, just trying to get my feet wet and learn. And I had this teacher and, major dad energy, kind of that was his whole thing. But what he said that stuck with me, what more than any technical aspect I learned, he said, to be great at any sort of comedic entertainment especially, and I'm sure there are exceptions, but for us, he said, you have to leave your cool card at the door, which is a total dad way to say it.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. Like if you're
trying
to be cool, you have a very limited playing field within which to operate.
Yeah, your lane is very narrow.
Yeah.
Also, the audience can see through shit that's just not at all genuine.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you're up there basically trying to spin stories and stuff, it kind of takes people out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've seen it to where like stuff should be funny on paper, and I've seen people tell it in a way that it's just like you're full of shit, and it does kind of make it less funny.
What about as far these big goals? What are, because this is the part where I think that I want to make sure that I am doing myself justice. What actions, and we've talked about it a lot, but I would love to hear you crystallize kind of your process. What actions are you taking in your life right now to reach those goals? Because that's kind of what I have to remind myself. I'm like, yeah, dreaming's great, but what can I do this week, this month, this year to get me one step closer?
Abs.
Always
be selling.
Okay.
Always be selling yourself.
I thought you were talking about your physical fitness.
Yeah, no, just always push. Always. Every day, every moment. If you think about it, do it. If you're thinking about your show, promote it. Throw it on Facebook. Take that 30 seconds to a minute to throw it on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. You should be promoting. If you get booked for a show, whether or not you're putting that show on, whether or not you're the main one marketing it, you need to be marketing yourself. You need to be selling yourself. If you're booked for a show, there's no reason why you shouldn't post about it every single day until the date of that show. There's no reason. There's no excuse for that. That's just bad self-promotion. And a lot of comics start to kind of rest on their laurels or get too busy or get too used to this shit and kind of take that part for granted. And they don't do that. And I think that's a big difference between, some of my shows and some other shows or some mics that just like success rates go up and down a lot more, fluctuate, or they just never take off. And a lot of it's just because the people involved in it can't be bothered to promote it as much as it deserves to be promoted.
Yeah, I think that's with anything. Like, you can make the best thing ever, but if nobody knows about it, then it's not going to be successful. And we've seen, all types of different media. If it's promoted hard enough, it doesn't even have to be that good.
Right.
So when you mix good promotion with a great product, the sky's the limit.
And that's one of the reasons, again, I'm very blessed and appreciative of the team that I have around me, because it's not even just me anymore. And I still do it every day, There's times when people get a little frustrated with me because I should be spending a little more time in the moment, but it's part of my anxiety. Like, it's like if the phone will ring, or I'll hear notification, or I'll have a thought in the back of my head and immediately have to I'll even try to be like, I know I need to just fuck this phone. And then I'll hear it go off and be like, well, what if it's important?
Sometimes though, when you have an idea, because I don't know if you've experienced this, like you have a good idea and you're like, ooh, I need to write that down for later. And then in 30 minutes, it's gone, and you can literally not get any part of it back. Like, bro, I have to write it down immediately. I'll forget, no matter how good the idea is.
Sometimes I smoke a lot. Well, I smoke a lot of weed, so sometimes it's not even 30 minutes. Sometimes it's 30 seconds for me. Like
So you
I
gotta act
literally,
quick.
for the time it takes me to like grab the piece of paper and pen, like I'm like, fuck, it's already gone.
Like that idea, you're like, it's got to go on paper now, or it is gone forever.
And there's some jokes, and this, part of the nature of the business. Sometimes, unless you're one of the sober folk, you end up drinking. Or if you're me, you always end up smoking.
Yeah.
So there's whole bits and sometimes whole sets that I forgot entirely. And it sucks. Like I've had people come up to me just recently. I had another comic come up to me. He was like, "Hey man, that bit you did about attacking Ray Charles, like it was in Georgia, what the fuck?" That was hilarious. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea how I got to that punchline. Like, I don't remember the setup at all. Oh, no.
That's painful.
It's super painful. Yeah, it sucks.
So if you took all your best stuff and put it together, how long of a set do you think you could like perform? Like, do you have a half hour, an hour, 2 hours? Like, how much do you think you have?
I would say not to like, I don't know. I don't want to come in too hot or too cocky.
No,
and
I'm
just
being
say like
genuine.
some kind of crazy amount of time. But I would say solid material that's like worthy to be like out in the big public eye. I would say I probably have around an hour.
Okay, that's good.
But it's not a cohesive hour.
Yeah.
It's not something I would have to do a lot of work to like string it together into like one special, like one long narrative.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would just be like a fucking crackhead telling jokes. Like I would be all over the place, because it is kind of a wide range of topics and stuff. So I do have an hour, but it's not 1 hour, if that makes sense.
But I'm sure it's something you could fit together in
potentially. Yeah. I would probably have to make some jokes about my ADHD and how scatterbrained it can make me, or like lean heavily into my brain is broken. That little bit. That could be the name of my first special. Brandon Killough, My Brain is Broken.
Yeah.
But
you could just reference ADHD. Like I've seen sometimes non sequiturs work really well. Well, somebody will be talking about like, the post office, and they'll be like, "What do you think of axe murderers?"
Yeah.
It's like
the shock of that.
Yeah, sometimes it has comedic value to it. Sometimes.
Right.
So there is potential for that.
Yeah, sometimes I will purposely do the worst segue of all time.
Yeah, because it is funny sometimes if done right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, I want to make sure we plug the 420 show or anything you got one last time.
Okay.
What's your main thing?
It's a little late and I'm pretty stoned and sleepy, so we're gonna forget about all the other stuff. Well, not forget about it, but we're not gonna mention all the other stuff again. We're just gonna plug the hell out of this Puff Puff Laugh Part 2 showcase, guys. 420 at the Living Room Lounge. That is 2200.
Yes, Northwest
40th Street. Thank you, guys. You guys are the best.
Got the director of marketing and the host of the podcast supporting you.
The Living Room Lounge on 420. That is a Wednesday. 7 p.m. doors, 8 p.m. show. $10 general admission tickets. Honestly, by the time this airs, I'm sure that's all we'll have left.
Yeah,
VIP
no
will be
chance
sold out by then. Sorry, guys. Comes with door prizes. Comes with that voucher for the after party. And then the after party is going to be at Poor OKC Liquid Lounge, 814 West Sheridan Road, Suite F. We will probably be doing that at around 10 o'clock. You can get the tickets from me directly for the general admission. Those are $10 a piece. Just DM me to get those, or you can get them from any of the performers in the show.
You can get them from me. You can DM me, DM the podcast. I'm gonna be slanging these tickets.
Yep. You can get them from Next, the musical guest, at Next Will Hex on Instagram, or Spooky Dawn. You DM either one of those directly. Damon Detroit on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, but buy them from me until I'm sold out. So let's do that.
Yeah. I mean, just you look at the flyer. It's digital. We got physical flyers that are going to be all over town as well for both the show and the after party. Any performer on that flyer and our DJ Undefined can all get you a physical ticket for $10, and then all you got to do is show up and have a great time.
Brandon, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast studio.
Anytime.
A long-awaited episode, the even more anticipated show at the Living Room.
Yes.
We will be living in that room that night. It is aptly named.
We will. Yeah. Not just being alive, but really living, folks. It's going to be a great fucking time. Yeah.
I plan to overdose on heroin on stage and then come back to life to prove how living that room will be.
I have a defibrillator ready for this exact scenario.
Because we get 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 7.5 minutes. I'm going to die. You're going to revive me, and I'm going to do the revived second half of the show.
For tension, I'm going to leave you clinically dead for at least a good 45 seconds to a minute.
Okay, so I'll prepare 14 minutes of material.
Yes.
And 1 minute of death.
Of being dead.
Yeah, I love that. So if you want to see this, come to the living room on 420.
You want to see this.
Hit me up on social media. Get a ticket.
Yeah.
We'll see you there. That's all for today.